Welcome to the Michigan UFO Sightings and Paranormal Encounters podcast, where we explore the unexplained and mysterious phenomena that have occurred throughout the state of Michigan and beyond.
From UFO sightings to ghostly encounters, we delve deep into the stories, the evidence, and the theories behind these strange events.
We are your hosts. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Wayne.
We are an educator duo that after an encounter with a triangular UFO in 2018 in Michigan, we decided to investigate UFOs and the paranormal. In this podcast, we will be speaking with eyewitnesses, experts, and researchers to uncover the truth about some of the most intriguing cases of paranormal activity in and around Michigan.
Our goal is not to convince anyone of the existence of these phenomena, but rather to provide a platform for discussion and exploration. So, buckle up and join us on this journey down the paranormal rabbit hole.
On an escalator.
Okay, hello everyone and greetings.
Hey everyone.
It is Sunday, February 15th, 2026, and tonight we're stepping into a space where music, consciousness, and the unexplained all collide. This is going to be awesome. Yeah. So for decades, Jimi Hendrix has been celebrated as one of the greatest guitarists who ever lived. But many believe there was something more going on behind the music. His lyrics, his interviews, even the experiences people around him reported, all seem to hint at an awareness, something cosmic, something beyond ordinary.
So was Hendrix really just channeling creativity? Or was he tapping into something much deeper, something connected to altered states, the paranormal, and perhaps even the UFO phenomenon itself? Tonight, we explore those possibilities with musician and researcher Jimy Bleu. This is going to be a fascinating ride, guys.
Absolutely.
So, Jimy, welcome to the show. We're really want to get him on there.
Yep. Let's get him on there.
There we go. We are so excited to dig into this. Because this is a conversation that sits at kind of the crossroads of music history and the unexplained.
Yeah.
Yes, I appreciate you inviting me.
Yeah, absolutely. And, many people are not really willing to go there and, kind of connect these creative abilities with frequencies and the paranormal and music, and there's something very mystical and magical when it comes to music. But what first drew you to studying Hendrix beyond the music?
Well, basically, I used to hang around Jimmy. In 1968, I joined his fan club, and from there, actually got to hang around him quite often. And I wasn't really, I'm what am I, 15, 16, 17, around that age. So I wasn't really hip to what was going on with him, with what you mentioned. But just before he died, I started to really, I started to see the effect that he had on people and started to put that all together. So that's what really, once he died, I'm like, hey, nobody's carrying this on. This guy has a legacy. He was into some things before he died. Nobody's carrying that on. I said, obviously, somebody has to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So was that when you suspected there was something more going on with Jimmy, his ability to create, and, what was going on that kind of made you think, this has got to carry on. There's more going on here.
Well, mainly not so much from him, but from the people around him. He was good friends with John Lennon, Paul McCartney. John Lennon turned him on to Timothy Leary. So I remember going to the Village Gate. I think it was the Village Gate Club when Jimmy jammed with Timothy Leary. It was a party. Timothy Leary. He produced Timothy Leary's album, and he's playing on that album. So Timothy got him into spirituality. There was other people involved with him. Some of the people who in his entourage were involved in either spirituality or paranormal. So after talking to these people, especially after he died, I got to speak to a lot of people connected with Hendrix, and I'm like, started putting the pieces together, and
Yeah.
said, "How this guy was deep," you know.
Yeah. Why do you think this side of Hendrix gets ignored?
Oh man, it's really complicated. I'm telling
Hey,
you
we
when
got time.
no, no, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
it's really complicated because it's okay, he was the highest paid performer about a year and a half before he died. And still, it was hard for him to get work. Um, he had to go in with somebody to start his own booking agency to get himself actually booked because it was hard because of the racism back then. And so that kind of carried on to today. Now, when I give my lectures on Hendrix, I give a laundry list of rock stars who was involved in the paranormal or spirituality, or actually both sometimes. And when I say Jimi Hendrix, people are like, get out of here. He just got high and winged it. This is the mentality people have on him. You know, even after the 100 books, documentaries about him, they don't delve deep into this. So when people like you invite me to do shows like this, I feel like it's very important for people to get a real understanding of what he was about by somebody who was there.
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. And at first I was like, and my own ignorance about Hendrix, I was not a big follower of Hendrix. You know, I was in a different age. I was in a different age bracket. Michelle knows more about Hendrix than I do.
I went
Um,
through I went through my late 60s, 70s rock phase at the end of high school, early college.
Okay.
In
yep,
in fact, before you had popped on the show, I had actually just popped on Wind Cries Mary
yep,
because it's one of my favorite ones because of just how bluesy it is.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden you appeared backstage. I'm like, well, all I have to do is play a Hendrix tune.
But
Bob, there
my
I am.
yep, yep. And one of the things you just made me think of is I'm thinking about my own knowledge, and I know Hendrix was just creativity unleashed. He was doing things with those guitars and stuff that nobody had thought of. Chewing on the string is one thing because that was done before, but this was something, the way that he played left handed, stringing the guitar upside down, a lot of innovation. But do you think that people's ignorance when it comes to Jimi Hendrix, do you think it's because he was great, but he wasn't great for very long? I mean, he wasn't right. He wasn't there to impress upon people like for 10 years, let's say. What's your thoughts on that?
That's a good point. You know, it's something I never thought of that could have a lot to do with it. But like I said earlier, when people think of, I say, rock stars from the 60s, especially early 70s, were involved in the spiritual path and or the paranormal, they don't think of a black guy.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I'm being serious. They
Yeah.
come this, I have meet and greets after my shows, and I have meet and greets after my lectures, and this is what they tell me. I had no idea. You know what I mean? And I so basically that has a lot to do with it also. This is why what I do as far as disseminating this information is very important.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I can definitely see that because I mean back in that time frame, you're looking at when civil rights was just kicking off and everything, Vietnam War, all this weird stuff was going on, and there probably was like the quote unquote black folks of the South all being Christian and uh very devoted. They didn't look or think about any of this stuff. And it was really like the Southern white Christians that were projecting that stuff on, Southern blacks.
Mhm.
And so I think you're right. I think that absolutely like followed him, and they painted him with that brush and be like, Why would he ever look into paranormal?"
Yeah, when and they say that when initially he came out the box, paranormal. You listen to Are You Experienced? Third Stone from the Sun. He gets into a whole UFO-ish kind of thing. Also from that period, there was a song called Stars That Play with Laughing Sam's Dice.
Hmm.
Laughing Sam's Dice LSD is the same thing as the Beatles had
Lucy in the Sky.
Guy. Yeah, the same thing. That was going around that whole scene back then, the psychedelic scene. And then when you listen to the song, he's giving a tour while on a spaceship. Oh, if you look to the right, you see Saturn, man. And to the see Mars. Look out for that door. Don't go, you know,
Yeah.
little things like that. So like I said, out the box, it was different. And also the second album, especially the first song, he plays an alien being interviewed. So there should be no doubt that something's up. If anybody had the requirements to be UFO-ish or an alien, it was this guy.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
in all seriousness, it wasn't so much him at first. It was the guy who discovered him, Chaz Chandler, who took him to England. And because he got Jimmy into sci-fi really. Now Jimmy as a kid, was into Buster Crab,
Hmm.
those old serial thingies that you went to the movies and you sort of, he was
Sure.
in matter of fact, he had insisted that people call him Buster. He was so into, and then as he got older, he just that kind of like really got him into more sci-fi. And then once he met Chaz, it was a wrap because Chaz was giving him these books. That's where he got Purple Haze from.
Okay.
One of the books. I have the title. Somebody could look it up, and a few of the other songs. But one thing that really stuck with him was Ursula Le Guin. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her,
Mm-mm.
sci-fi writer. She wrote Left Hand of Darkness and another book called A Wizard of Earthsea. Now, when
Hmm.
Chaz Chandler divorced from Hendrix during Electric Ladyland, he parted ways with Jimmy. He sent Jimmy stuff because Jimmy was kind of like staying with him as well, and sent his stuff back. And in that package was the book, A Wizard of Earthsea, that affected Jimmy for the rest of his life because just before he died, he submitted a script to Warner Brothers for a film with a cassette tape for the soundtrack and a script, an actual full feature film, and the character's name was Black Gold. And that character was sort of like an Indiana Jones who traveled around the world and got into, paranormal stuff and activity and things like that. So, like I said, he was totally into it.
He was into it. Yeah. So, let's talk a little bit about expanded consciousness, and Hendrix spoke openly about other dimensions. Now, I don't want this to come off as kind of flippant, but how seriously should we take his ideas of other dimensions? What did he mean?
Keep in mind, we're talking about the psychedelic area.
Okay.
I don't
Well, I
know.
know there's a big push right now. I like ayahuasca and mushrooms for treating people with PTSD, and all of these treatments that they're finding from these types of drugs, and there's all kinds of people out there interviewing and doing these experiments and stuff about it. So, I think that's kind of where this question was kind of, leading me was to that idea. So go ahead.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know what was inside his head with those things. I can only go by what he said, and you have to also keep in mind. I'm always getting people come up to me. Oh, well, Jimmy said blah 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 and blah blah. I said, yeah, but how was he when he said it? What was he
Yeah.
on? You know what I mean? Think of you with, or well, I don't know you, but when I used to get high, I said some things that, you know what I mean, that I would, wow, I said that, So I mean, keep in mind, he was a young man, he was getting high a lot, and he said some things. But about a year and a half before he died, he was weaning himself off of drugs because he was getting into like other, like a spiritual path, which hopefully we'll have time to get into later on.
Hmm.
And just like all of the other rock stars. So the difference in what you had mentioned that's going on today and the difference back then is that back then that kick started a revolution.
Yeah.
Okay, that rock music and that whole psychedelic era kick-started especially the interest of what's going on today. People don't think about where did that come from? This spirituality, this whole paranormal stuff, where did that come from? I mean, before the 60s, you had, of course, the 50s, with the beat poets, you had Blavatsky, Madame Blavatsky, you had all of these people, various people into the thing, but it wasn't large until the psychedelic era. And that's when
Yeah.
things started to really explode. And that's what scared uh, the powers that be,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is why they had to shut it down.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's, kind of leading right into my next question was how did the 1960s exploration of consciousness connect to paranormal experiences?
Mm. Uh, well, it strengthened the wish, meaning you trip a lot, you're seeking. You know what I mean? It opens doors, and you're seeking, and you're really trying to find a way that strengthens your inner wish, and then you start to be led to the real deal. You know what I mean? Which you might not have seen if you hadn't taken that trip. You know what I mean? So hopefully you survive the trip, which a lot of
Right.
people didn't. But if you survive and you keep your head straight, you come out of that, you're led to what's really real.
Yeah. So, I'm curious, do you think creativity and altered perception then opens people to these anomalous encounters?
Yes.
What do you think it does?
Uh it heightens you. And like I said earlier, it leads you to the real deal of how to perfect that creativity.
Uh,
That's important. You know what I mean? It's not just jiving around here, how to really get it under control and perfect it, especially if you start affecting people. If you're in a position, let's say you're a star, whatever, you're in a position to affect people's consciousness and mentality. You want to
yeah.
get that straight. You know what I mean? You don't want to be winging that. You want to really get it straight because other people are in your responsible care.
Yeah. Um Okay, we kind of hit on this a little bit. You were leading into it, but I hope we can dig into this a little bit deeper. Are there specific statements or lyrics that suggest UFO awareness? And I think you were just talking about that, but if you can elaborate and dig in a little bit more on that, because I think this is interesting.
All right, let me see. I may have something here on that. I know that like I had said earlier, uh the books that Chaz lent him and wouldn't give back. I spoke to Chaz Chandler a few years before he died. And Chaz goes, he never gave me my books back, man. uh basically uh, one of the books, excuse me, one of the books, Night of Light, by Philip Jose Farmer, is where he got Purple Haze from. Earth Abides, um, by George Stewart. Um, there, and I had mentioned Ursula Le Guin, which had a profound effect on him early. Um, and also, there's a book. called Black Gold, which has nothing to do with the script I was talking about by Steve Roby. And he gets into a lot of the lyrics, the sci-fi lyrics and things like that is in the lyrics of Hendrix. Um, there's a song 1983, A Merman I Should Turn to Be. Very poetic. He talks about apocalypse and then becoming I guess a merman where he's able to survive underwater with his girlfriend to get away from the apocalypse. He talks about it in the song. Not only that, he paints a picture of this with the music in the studio. I mean, it actually sounds like it's going on as he's singing. And then there's a little interlude, musical interlude. It's very UFO-ish. Take a listen. Don't take my word for it. Your
Sure.
audience out there, take a listen to that. And yeah, it's like crazy.
We have a New England Dirt Roadie is saying the song Purple Haze was about spontaneous astral travel or
Yeah,
astral projection.
sure.
No
I
kidding.
would agree with that. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Did people around Hendrix report unusual phenomenon? I mean, you were around him a lot. So did you guys experience stuff? We hear about these hitchhikers and things that will attach themselves to people and follow and poltergeist and maybe even demonic or angelic attachments, stuff like that. Did you see anything like that while you were hanging around with him a lot?
No, I,
No?
I was basically on the outskirts of his inner circle. I
Okay.
was a kid. I was one of, and I was never alone with him. I was always three or four of us from the fan club was around him. He acknowledged his fan club. I should say the USA fan club because he had two, one in the USA and one in London. He acknowledged us, and but he, never said, "Oh, Jimmy, come here." It was never like that. We just were there. And no, so I never did. But there were reports with his brother. Him and his brother saw a UFO, and his brother Leon talks about that. That other people have described strange things happen around him when he channels a spirit and they see certain things coming out of him. Also, supposedly he rented Handel's house from the classical musician Handel in England, and supposedly Handel's ghost visited him at the house. But like I said, when Jimmy said this, what was his state of mind? What was he on? You know what I mean? It's you have to be very careful uh,
Yeah.
with these. There's a whole book on Jimmy's quotes, and somebody had given me that as a gift, and I'm like, I'm looking through it, and I'm like, oh boy, you know what I mean? Because he's saying stuff. He was high. He's saying stuff, and or he's saying stuff that is coded. You know what I mean? Maybe
Yeah.
there's certain code in it. So you can't always go by that.
Yeah. Why do you think musicians so often report high strangeness experiences? Do you think it's the way that they open themselves to creativity and other things kind of sneak in there and make themselves known?
Yeah, you said it best, man. That's exactly it, I believe. They're open to that experience. And I always say, if it never happened to me, but if a UFO landed or came to this planet and landed, who would they see? Would they see somebody who's walking around in the daze? Would they want to communicate with somebody who's not there? Up here or doesn't have their full faculties or doesn't have their full consciousness, who would they contact? We have
True.
see w- uh, the masses of people are led to believe that we are the highest. We as we are now, we are the highest that there's ever been of human beings. But yet, when we look at the past, especially the distant past from thousands of years ago, we see. Wait a minute. Or we actually read what these people were saying, we said, wait a minute. Hmm. So
But look
We
at the
have to really
structures
think
they left behind.
exactly.
You know, when you look at just like the pyramids of Giza, when you just look at those things, or something like Machu Picchu, or other ruins that are out there, and when you think about it, those could very seriously just be like massive foundations to some other building that was wiped out, and that's what's left behind.
Yes.
And we have no idea how they made these things. There's lots of speculation and things like that, but when you talk about the Great Pyramid of Giza is made up of like what is it, 2.1 million blocks of 22-ton blocks, like, and it's perfectly aligned to true north. It's just, it's insane. And yet the best they got is, copper tools and hammer and chisels. No, these people were mathematicians. They knew what was going on. It just, something happened where, like Graham Hancock always says, like, we lost who we were,
Yes.
and we have amnesia. And the more and more things we find and try to learn, the older and older stuff gets. It's like humans have been here a long time.
Yeah. And like I said, there have been smarter people than we are to. And
Yeah.
what you mentioned, the pyramid. We have to keep in mind that is Graham Hancock and other people like that agree. Robert Bauval,
Yeah.
Christopher Dunn, especially. These people would tell you that is the most precise building on the planet. It's like, wait a minute.
Yep.
It's the most precise. I mean, how did they do this? They found out too that the king's chamber of that pyramid resonates to an F sharp chord. The Grand Gallery resonates to an F sharp chord.
Yep.
Obviously, it was something musical going on there with acoustics that's happening. Uh, Especially the king's chamber. When you build recording studios, you always have an isolation room that's isolated from the walls, from the structure of the studio, and you have that for acoustical reasons. Well, that's the way the king's chamber is built. It's isolated from that. There's something going. We know it's not a tomb. You don't go through all that trouble for a tomb.
They've
So there's
never found a
something going
body
on
in
there.
there.
No, no.
Yeah.
So yeah, somebody's smarter than we are. Yeah, and I always say that technology. Basically, of course, we have computers. I love my iPhone and computers. You know what I mean?
Sure.
We have that, and we have cars and atomic bombs and things like that.
Mhm.
It seems that the ancients' technology went in a different direction. Now, what was that direction? Number one, that direction was tweaking the human machine. Keep in mind, our body's a machine for higher development. Number two was what happens to us when we die. It seems like they knew because when we go into these tombs, which we're not supposed to go into, really, they're not made for us to take a little Disney walk through. They say, oh,
Right.
look at that, look at. Basically, we find that they mapped it out. Okay, when you die, you're going to go here. You're going to need to blah, 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 blah. And when you blah, 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 you're going to have to. It's like, now, wait a minute. It's, of course, the scholars will say, well, that's superstition, blah, 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 blah. But it must have worked. Why? It must have worked because you don't build a civilization that lasts for thousands and thousands of years on something that doesn't work.
That's right.
Obviously, it worked. So it kind of we have to rethink a lot of things.
Well, you brought up the whole F sharp thing, and there's a question here I have about sound and vibration being able to alter reality. I'm just curious if that is the case with the pyramids, or at least the Great Pyramid of Giza. Do you think that there is some kind of a pattern there? Then when you look at all this stuff, because like I said, they've never found a body in that pyramid. It's very like mechanical feeling, when you look at it and you see how it's designed. Um, there have been reports that those black, like, they call them sarcophagus, but those black boxes that are those giant granite black boxes that's in the Great Pyramid, there's one of them. There's one of them down under, like in the grotto, down underground, underneath the pyramid that they found. It's flooded with water.
Mhm.
But then there's the whole area, I want to say it's Saqqara, that has all of the black boxes. And people are saying that if you measure those, they pretty much come out to measuring the size of the Ark of the Covenant, and that these things were actually holding the Ark of the Covenant in these power sources. Now, when you look at those boxes, they say that they found, Apis bulls or whatever, but that was after. Like, those things were not used to bury ceremonial bulls. That's ridiculous. Why would you need a black box so perfectly carved, beautiful right angles, highly polished? It doesn't make sense. So do you see that there's like any kind of a pattern between these sounds, vibrations, and altered reality, maybe an altered consciousness when it comes to like those areas?
Yes, yeah, and like again, you said it quite well. It's and plus you said the magic word perfectly, precision.
Yeah.
Christopher Dunn likes to use that word precision. That
Yep.
negates all of the oh, they just happened to put a box here for bulls. It's like, yeah, and they built it perfect. Come on. And keep in mind too, that's for us because scholars, they sit around and they toss this around. They know it's just that they don't want to lose that tenure and that funding. So they're not going to come out and say what they really know, but they ain't stupid. They know. There's
Yeah.
something going on here they can't explain, so they'd rather not say. And instead of saying, "Well, I just don't know," I had a friend. I could call her a friend because I saw her a few times at the Open Center here in New York City when she came to speak. Her name was Carmen Bolter. And basically, I hate to say just Egyptologist because she was so much more especially with the whole feminine aspect of civilizations back in the day and things like that. But she did a film called The Pyramid Code. And
Okay.
basically, it became quite popular. But in that film, she has different people, um, engineers and things like that she took to Egypt. And these people are saying, like, we can't do that. How did they do that? We can't do that. When you look at the Sphinx Temple and those blocks of stone are the size of diesel engines.
Yeah.
It's like, how did you lift it? So there's a lot going on. Like I said earlier, we don't understand. And keep in mind, these people who do kind of like have a better understanding than we do because they're in the field, they're not going to want to lose what they got. So they're not going to really say anything. That's why I love YouTube, which I call a free university, because
Yeah.
you can get this information, but you have to be discerning
Yes.
because there's a lot of BS. But you could still piece together, things and come to some kind of a conclusion.
Yep. And it's kind of like the UFO thing too. It's like Michelle and I had our experience that led us down this. We're both teachers. She's a master's degree teacher. I went to university. I'm a scientist and teach science and earth and space science and stuff, and never got into this stuff until we saw one of those huge black triangles in 2018 here in Canton, Michigan, just up the road from us. And it kind of shook us to the core to where we wanted to find out what's going on. And we asked people on Facebook, we're like, hey, anybody else see this thing? But we didn't get many responses to what we saw that night. However, people started piling in, and within, I want to say with no podcast or nothing in 2018, we had a group in about a year. I want to say it was about 3,000 people joined our group and were relaying information and stuff about all their encounters and all this stuff going on. And it was just really bizarre that it, like, we had that group and we decided there's something going on here. There's stuff, what we saw, what other people are talking about, how crazy are we, and it led into all of these different avenues. And I think, like you're saying, the experiences that people are going to have, though, are going to seem like they're almost tailor made, like
Yeah.
to the individual, right? They're going to see something, just like with music. Some people are going to hear it, some people are not. And so, it just brought to mind like this idea of, like, it's for you or it's not for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how, if I'm picking the right words for it,
Well,
but
when you both saw what you saw, did you feel like it was just for you to see that?
well, there were other cars on the road and nobody seemed to respond. We tried to get the hell out of there. We were like, I
He
mean, we're
was driving to get the hell out of there. I
yeah,
had the window down,
yeah.
hanging out the car.
She's hanging out. It's not making any sound. And I'm like, well, I heard a voice in my head that said, "Get away from here. You don't belong here. Get away." And I
Mm.
was instantly terrified. And I wasn't afraid of what we were seeing. I was kind of astonished, but I'm also driving the car and it's March and I don't want to slide off the road here in Michigan with the weather and stuff. But I'm trying to watch it and drive and get on the expressway. And then I hear this voice in my head. And now I'm trying to gun it. And she's just like, "It's not making any noise. Look at this." And did it. And I'm flying on the on ramp, man. I'm pushing a 4-door Jeep, 80 miles an hour, and the thing's starting to vibrate the wheels off. And then the thing rotates and then moves parallel to us along the expressway heading south.
Mm.
And it was a wild experience, and that just started everything for us. We didn't talk about it for 3-4 days afterward, and then it was like, hey, what do you think about starting a Facebook group and see if anybody saw what we saw? What did we see? And we were talking about it then, but we didn't talk about it for a few days. And man, it was bizarre. But it changed our whole trajectory when it came to doing like this show and everything. And
I was going to say, did Jimmy, do you think he ever talked about actually experiencing something similar to us or seeing something?
yeah.
I mean,
And I think somebody in chat just asked about, did he see some type of a ghost or something in a recording studio?
that is one of
I
the.
saw that somewhere.
Yep, I've got it.
So that would, yeah,
I
did
got
Jimmy
it.
see apparitions? Well, apparitions at the Electric Lady studio. So I'm interested. Yeah, but
Actually, other people who have recorded there and reported seeing Jimmy's ghosts there. I'm aware of that, but I'm not aware of Jimmy. He wasn't in the studio that long. He was only there for maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and then he died. So, and the studio wasn't even finished. He was
okay.
recording out of only very part of the studio. So yeah, but like I said, other people have reported that, and I mentioned earlier him and his brother saw a UFO similar to the experience you two had, and his brother Leon talks about that when interviewed. Also, there's a film called Rainbow Bridge, where Jimmy's at one of his last concerts in Hawaii, and it basically he's sitting around with the producer of the concert, Chuck Wayne, and they're talking. This is in the film, and they're getting high, and they're talking about UFO-ish, paranormal type things. That's laced in the film. So yeah, I mean, there are a few experiences, and I imagine, depending on who you ask, that there are other instances. Sure.
Yeah. Well, I've got something I want to show you, because this was back when I was at a community college and I was taking an art class, and we had to find some type of it was the history of art. And we had to find something that we thought was an interesting art piece and do a report on it. So I did the Great Pyramid of Giza. This was when I was doing pre-med. I was going to go into nuclear medicine to help, cure cancer. That's kind of what I wanted to do, and get into MRI and then nuclear medicine and doing targeted stuff. But that didn't turn out. Once I had to deal with the cadaver rooms at the college, I was like, yeah, I'm done. I can't handle this. I wussed out, and I enjoy being a teacher, so
Yeah.
it's much better than that. But I want to show you this. There's some new people here that might not have seen me show this before, but so I'll just walk you through this, and I would love to get your feedback on this. So Great Pyramid of Giza, everybody knows it. If you don't know it, you're living under a rock, right? But they say it was built in 2530 before Common Era by Pharaoh Khufu, but there's no record anywhere that he actually built it, and it looked like there was a scratching of his cartouche on one of the on the black box up there in the king's chamber. But 20 years to complete, tallest man-made structure for about 3,800 years, until the Eiffel Tower was made, right? Once covered with casing stones, and what we see left now is the inner core. We believe it was highly polished white limestone, so it would look like a star sitting on the ground, but it had a top that was supposedly covered in gold, and nobody knows exactly the building technique. All right. So the 4 points of the pyramid align to the cardinal points within 4 minutes of arc based on true north, not magnetic north, which is very interesting. This goes to your precision point, right? Consists of 2.3 million limestone blocks quarried. 2.3 million blocks. That's insane. The casings were quarried from across the river, and that's the River Nile, believed to be built by tens of thousands of skilled workers, not slaves. That whole slave thing was a total misnomer that they've since debunked. Now, this is where things get real interesting. They call it the King's Chamber up there at the top. You have the Queen's Chamber down here. And most depictions of this are this east-west elevation where they cut the pyramid in half, right? They slice it so you can see the inside. And most books and everything you learn is that the pyramid's insides are shown that way. But there's something more interesting, right? So there you go. You're looking west. So you're on the east side of the pyramid looking to the west where the setting sun is. Doesn't look like anything really spectacular until, what if you were on the other side, and if you cut through it, this is what you see. There's your crown. Your king's chamber is the head. The neck or the spine is the grand gallery. Queen's chamber is the heart and the stomach. Then we got legs. We have the intestines all the way down to the pit, down at the bottom where it's his feet. It is, I think they say it's supposed to be, and nobody ever talks about this, but when viewed from the south side looking north, you can see what looks like a man wearing a crown who is looking to the west. Facing west was to look to the underworld. And then when dividing pieces of artwork into 18 equal segments, this arrangement lines up perfectly with the human body. So here you have 180 cubits. Right there is where your third eye is supposed to be. Queen's chamber, the entrance was right at the belly button. And when you put a grid on it for doing artwork, like this right here, all of their art was done like this. If you break it up into 18 segments, the very top, right here. Right? Oh no, Michelle, is this coming through?
I see
I
it.
can see.
Oh, okay. Oh, my screen is lagging. Okay, anyways, if you look at step 11, that is the umbilical or the navel, and all of their artwork, depending on how you scale it, is all done this way. And that's why I picked it as a piece of interesting art, is because the way that they did their artwork. Here you can see it here. Regardless of the scale, if you break it down into 18 equal segments, this is how all of their artwork shows up. And of course, those are all mystical numbers, 18, 11, and then the foot being the bottom. So if you look at this, you can just shrink down what's inside the pyramid and put it over any type of piece of artwork and it will fit perfectly. And nobody had an answer. I've never seen this talked about anywhere. And I just happened to stumble upon it in a community college.
Mhm.
I mean, how crazy is that? Talk
I
about
could have seen Hendrix writing a song about this somehow.
absolutely.
I've
Yeah.
seen that diagram, that especially that one right there,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's great that you put that together, and hopefully a lot of people in your audience are really getting hip to that because, like you said, it's not seen a lot. But
Yeah.
along the same lines of this, and even more fascinating, is the Temple Waset, which is called the Temple of Luxor, which, according to the works of Swala de Lubix, is the temple of man, meaning it's built on that same grid system that you're talking about. So when you walk through this part, you're at the feet. When you walk through this part, you're at, you know what I mean? Until you get to the crown, to the head. And that whole temple is laid out like that. There's nothing like it in really so far from what we found on the planet. There's nothing like that, and that's what makes that temple very unique. And that now the temple wasn't for the common man. That was for the initiates. Not like Epithet, Karnak. Basically, was for the masses. Was allowed to a certain point, but Luxor was certainly for the initiates. They were trained there, so there's something going on with the temple, and that really made it interesting. There's
Yeah.
also on one of the temples, there's related to sci-fi. There's an actual entrance point that says in the script, Stargate. That's what it says. You know what I mean? So I mean, yeah, I mean, you might want to look at that. You might want to look at these civilizations because ancient Egypt wasn't the only one. You had ancient India, you had ancient China, uh, you had
Well,
so many
the
different ones.
the South American stuff. I
Sure.
mean, Central and South American. I mean, those right angles that are at what is it? Is it Machu Picchu or Sacsayhuaman, where those they have those cuts within a cut within a cut, and it like doorways and
Yeah,
things
yeah.
that are perfect. It's like, and you said Stargate, and my mind immediately went
Mhm.
to those like doors that look like they're cut, and nobody knows how they could do that.
Yeah.
The keystones and everything. It's like these people, I mean, the civilizations we rose up out of 5,000 years ago or so in Mesopotamia, I think that's how you'd pronounce it, right? We were rebooted, man. We were survivors, what was left over, and they just kind of tried to keep everything going. But, and somebody in chat, Metalhead, says the whole thing is biblical. And it's like, well, how many mythologies came out around the same time? 154 of them talking about a huge flood that wiped everything out except for a few survivors everywhere.
Mhm.
I mean, how much evidence do you need? How much corroborating evidence, of people saying there was a huge flood? Okay, the Mayans, yeah, there was a huge flood, and this dude with red hair and stuff came over on a boat being pulled by dragons and taught us how to do this and that. It's like, how much do you need to know? You had the elongated skull people. I mean, dude, this goes way down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's what it is, a rabbit hole. Yeah.
It really is.
You have to be very diligent with your research. When I researched Hendrix, I patterned myself after Sherlock Holmes,
Yeah.
where you gather the information, you go through it. You know what I mean? Okay, that I can't use or whatever. You have to be very discerning, and then you
Yep.
come to some sort of a conclusion, and then you try that with something else. You know what I mean? To see corroborate yourself and verify yourself constantly instead of just believing one thing. You have to do this.
Yeah. Well, let's try to go back. Let's talk about this. So, do you think certain artists, and I think I know what you're going to say on this, but do you think certain artists act as antennas for information from somewhere else?
Yes. But what we want to, matter of fact, we all do. It is known, even in regular science, that there are energies coming from there that come through us. And there's also telluric energy from below us that comes through
Mhm.
us. So we have a choice. Do we want to just have these energies come through us and either not take advantage of what we can out of it or use us and like that? Or do we want to be conscious and be able to manipulate or work with these energies as they come through us for our own development? So we have a choice there. So it's the same thing with artists. What artists are you talking about? Are you talking about the artist who is not conscious of himself or herself? Or are you talking about the artist who is working on themselves? That there's a big difference. Going back very quickly to the ancient civilizations, they were ruled. The reason why they were able to accomplish what they did is because it was divided between the masses and the inner temple, what we call the inner temple or the initiates, the masters initiates. And that's what guided the civilization. And the masses also were able to take advantage of certain things of that, but they were not privy to certain information from the inner temple. And sometimes when I give my lectures on Hendrix and I get into this, and people, well, what do you mean the inner temple or an issue? And I said my best example is from that I can give to modern people is from the TV show Kung Fu. Remember that show?
Oh, absolutely, man.
Okay.
David Carradine. Oh, yeah.
He used to he
Absolutely.
used to have flashbacks of his life in the Buddhist monastery being taught by masters and basically how it guided that whole Chinese society basically without getting in letting the society go its way, but it was guided certain the consciousness guided that. And that's basically exactly what the ancient civilizations was like. You know what I mean? Not everybody was allowed in. I mean, in ancient Egypt, you had to what was the age 4 6 years old, and you stayed to around you was 40 something.
Yeah,
That
you
that
had that
you know
priest class, right? They had the priest class like Imhotep and all these guys, and they were basically like the scientists and the
yes,
builders and the mathematicians and things like that.
yes. And so when we see these great works and when we see these things that they're built as a lesson, the initiates build these things from the master's instruction, and that's why they're the way they are. And we have to keep that in mind. We have to divide the society. Same thing in India. Wherever you go, it's the same thing. There's a masses, and then there's um that inner circle, the elite. And today, when you say elite, you like, oh, these mean old priests and blah 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 blah, and they took
Mhm.
advantage of the society. This is our thinking back then. But back then, not all societies was like that. There were certain points in their history where it was guided to a certain direction, even in the bad times, because the elite would go underground and work from underground until they were able to restore certain order. Certainly in Egypt, I'm speaking about, and I use Egypt, and I'm using it erroneously because I want to say the ancient Nile Valley, because Egypt was the zenith of previous civilizations that came up from the ancient Nile Valley. We know this. Robert Bauval, when he his lectures, he gets really into this, but we know this. It's just that what I had said before, the racism, uh, especially from the scholars, you can't discuss that. They don't even want to talk about that.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So could music itself be a form of contact or communication of that energy? Like the universe expressing itself in using people as channels to create these vibrations and these sounds? I kind of, go back and forth on, is it me trying to deal with things and musically and expressing things I got going on in my head? Or is this from somewhere else? Because usually musically, I can't express anything unless I'm with somebody else, like my drummer. I don't write anything unless I'm like playing with the drummer in the band. And then we'll write a whole song and it'll just fit and it'll just work. But if I'm by myself, it's like, eh, I'm not that creative. So I'm just curious, like, where do you think this is coming from in this contact or communication? Like music, what is it for?
Oh, that's two different questions.
Well,
The
yeah,
first,
there's a bunch of questions in there. Take whatever you want out of it.
well, the first part of what you said, we all have our ways of being creative. So what works for you, if that works for you, fine, go with it. But like had told you before the show started, never lose that creativity, man. It's your breath of life. It's what keeps you alive. And I don't mean just in music, and whatever you do, that you have to be creative and that you're using both parts of your brain. That, you know what I mean, harmoniously. That's very important. And I want to get into that a little bit later. But as far as where music came from, it's we don't know. We know it was important. I can speak of it from the ancient African perspective. It was the most important part of the teachings. What was music, and to verify that, when Africans came over here to this country and to other countries out of Africa and as slaves, there was something that held the Africanness of these people together to prevent it from being a Holocaust where they're wiped off the planet, which is what was really intended. There was something that held them together, that a cohesiveness. It wasn't Christianity, because not all of the Africans were Christian. It wasn't Islam, even though that pervaded Africa at that time of the slavery. There was something that held the that cohesiveness of Africanness together. I profess that cohesiveness was music and dance. You can't speak about music without speaking about dance in Africa, or if you're not a trained dancer, movement. This is what made Jimi Hendrix different from every other guitar player, including today, which is why my live show is very important, because I demonstrate that. Is watch Monterey Pop Festival with Hendrix. Watch the way he's playing and moving with the guitar. Very important to watch that, because that's what a good example of what I'm talking about, of the music and the dance, and then he's singing on top of that. But that's what really got me into Hendrix uh, when I was a kid. Seeing him do that before he stopped doing that because of the problems that were happening with management and things like that, and the pressures. He kind of like stepped away from that, and he kind of got a little bit here and there. But Monterey Pop is a good example of that. No other guitar player today, or especially back then, was doing that. They were great guitar players. They were even technical guitar players who were better than he was. I'm not speaking about his technical ability.
Right.
I'm speaking about the way he used the guitar like a ritual instrument, as if he was a shaman. It's very important that so that answer should answer all of your questions there as far as music being used, because you see it right there. It affected the delivery of his playing, the movement, and his singing. You know what I mean? If he would have just stood there and just sang, like, but when you move like that and when you play a note, it affects the delivery. I demonstrate this when I do the lectures on Hendrix, of how you can hit one note and it changes when you move and you put your whole body into it.
Mm.
That's esoteric stuff right there. That's straight out of Africa. So that's, like I said, I can only speak from an African perspective. I've been on panels with people from Chinese. One musician used Tai Chi, which I study Tai Chi. When he plays, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
he talked about how important that is. So I mean, yeah, music is it, man. I'm telling you.
Well, that makes me think of Elvis Presley.
Mhm.
I mean, when he was all about the movement.
Yes.
I mean, he could sing and stuff, but then he grew up in like the African household.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, very, man, it, we've lost that movement, man.
Um,
Modern day is making us lose the movement. I was just telling Michelle, I drove past our local pizza parlor in town, and across the street from the pizza parlor is uh, a picnic table, and here's one of the workers from the pizza parlor, on her break, sitting there on her phone, and she's hunched over, and I'm just thinking, man, you guys are a chiropractor's wet dream. Her back, and she had to be she couldn't have been more than 17, 18 years old, but her back and her head and everything was so rounded.
Mm.
Like it looked like an old lady sitting there,
Wow.
after years and years and years, just hunched up. And I just drove by and I go, man, that, I do stretches and workouts every morning. I do Tibetan stretches and things like that to keep my body moving. And just when you said that about the movement, it's like we've lost so much movement due to our modern day. I mean, I don't know if you have thoughts on that of what you think that is going to lead us to.
It's not good, but you never know. Maybe we'll be rescued by
Yeah, maybe.
something up there, or you never know. But like I said, if a UFO landed, who would they contact? Would they contact the guy building the atomic bomb? I'm speaking of mentality. Who are they going to contact?
No,
These
it's
are
some poor
intelligent
schmuck
people.
driving home from work, It's
But I'm saying they're intelligent if they came here in however they came here. Maybe they came through a portal or whatever. Obviously, these people are highly intelligent. Wouldn't they want to connect with other people who are maybe not on their level, but at least working to get to that level where they could be understood? Uh,
right.
we have a lot of thinking to do. I used to be really down on the show Ancient Aliens, and then
Yeah.
I started, but that maybe this, first of all, I started to see some of the people I admire, like you had mentioned, Graham Hancock and other people, Chris Dunn, and all these people on the show. And there must be a little something there. So let me not throw away the baby with the bathwater here. Let me be
Yeah.
discerning, like I said earlier.
Yep.
And yeah, I've learned a lot. And basically, you had mentioned before the redhead guy with the coming
Yeah.
in dragons. Maybe that was the ancients' way
Quetzalcoatl?
of describing a ship or whatever. They're not going to say, "Oh, it's a spaceship." You
Right.
know what I mean? They're going to say, "Gee, that's looks like dragons, and look at the fire." So there's a lot of things that we don't understand. Look, we have it looking at us right in the face. It's all over Egypt. We're looking at skeleton bones in Egypt, and it's still profound. To give
Yeah.
you an example, you go to the museum and you look at the mask of King Tut. What? First of all, the pharaoh in the inner temple in Egypt represented perfected man, just like a Buddha or whatever. A lot of people are not aware of that. It wasn't just a pharaoh who ruled over the country. He represented a man who was perfected. So when you look at the crown of King Tut, remember I had spoken to you earlier about the two sides of the brain
Yeah.
working
Let's get
together
into that.
harmoniously?
Yeah. Dig into that. That sounds
That
awesome.
is a perfect symbol. Keep in mind, Egypt was ruled by symbology and the myths and symbology. That was the whole thing. The language, the script, everything is symbol. So that is a powerful symbol that we see almost every day. We go online, we can pull it up, and we don't know because we're not involved in the teachings from there. But if you look at that crown, that's representing the two sides of the brain working harmoniously. The left side is a snake. Okay, our just basically, intellect and things like that working. But then you see on the right side the vulture, which represented the creativity, the creative aspect. And then you had those two together. And when you look on top, this is important. When you look on top of the crown, you see the snake's body is squiggly line. Take a look at our brain from the top. It's mirroring how our brain looks from the top. You know what I mean? It's very powerful symbol. Obviously, these people knew something, but it's telling us the harmonious workings of both sides of the thing. And that's looking us right in the face. We don't see. Look at the Sphinx. All
Yeah.
of these symbols that we see, we look at them and oh, these people built nice statues and nice monuments. But we're looking at skeleton bones of a
Yeah.
culture that was ruled by a higher civilization that was just ruled by higher consciousness. We're not used to seeing a civilization ruled like that. We're used to
Yep.
seeing pockets of people who are higher conscious in a civilization, but not a civilization that's ruled. Look at ancient India; it's the same thing.
Yep.
You go there, you see the same thing. So there's obviously something going on way before we had any clue to what was going on here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. And all the evidence out there, if you want to be very objective about it, all the evidence out there that we're finding and the more studying we doing, it's pointing more and more to that exact kind of conclusion that there was civilizations out there a lot older than we think. They were using technology that we don't understand, probably something to do with vibration
Mhm.
and precision and music or sound in some way that we just we lost, we don't get, or they're hiding it from us. That priest class or whatever doesn't want us to know. But I'm curious now. I got a, a hypothetical for you. If Hendrix were alive today, what conversations do you think he would be part of? Like, would he be on here right now talking about all this stuff? Or
If he survived,
yeah,
what,
like,
what
would
was
this
going
be
on?
his thing? Would he be writing music about, paranormal and UFOs? I mean, look at modern day, all this stuff now going on in Washington D.C. and around the world, and this whole disclosure thing. What are your thoughts on all that?
I believe he would if he was, like I said, of right mind, and came out of that whole period surviving. Very few of the rock
Yeah,
stars from back then that we know of today did come out of that and like, "Phew,
you're
I
right.
made it. I'm glad." You know what I mean? With their faculties and everything, because it was a rough time. It took a lot of people out.
Yeah,
So if he did survive, he probably would. He was going in that direction musically anyway. Before he died, he was talking about the political things that was happening, which made him very dangerous to the powers that be, the government. When you read his FBI files, even through the heavy redactions, it's obvious that this guy was dangerous.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, like I said, if he would have survived, yeah, he probably would be talking to you as well. You probably reached out to him as well, you know.
Yeah. Um, do you have some time for about 3 questions or so from the
Yes,
audience? Okay.
yes.
Michelle, do you want to go ahead and pull those up? And
Well, we got a couple. So the first one, T-Bone had thrown out, no, it's a cover band. Has Jimmy heard of Frank Marino and Mahoney Rush? If so, your
Mahogany
opinion.
Rush. Yes.
Mahoney.
Listen, there's room for everybody doing the Hendrix tribute. Uh, yeah, that's all I will say.
okay.
That's it. Please, no opinion. Let's see. And the other one, Shelley asks, did Jimmy quietly, meaning alone in his thoughts, like to listen to Mozart or Beethoven?
Oh yeah, like the classicals.
Yes, he did. Handel uh, was another one. Chopin
Oh
was
yeah.
another one. So yeah, he was Hendrix was a sponge. He loved all kinds of music, and he would steal from any musician he saw. That whole all of those tricks that he did, playing behind his back, his teeth, and that stuff that he stole from the black musicians on what is called a chitlin circuit, which is how when you backed up those people, like I backed up Wilson Pickett, Joe Tex, and it was still the tail end of the chitlin circuit. But certainly when he was backing those people up, you went to these places in the South, these clubs, and you had to do all of that. You know what I mean? Or they throw stuff and get you off the stage. So he stole that. And plus, he stole a lot of stuff from the guitarist when he was a star that he liked. And, you know, he actually stole it. And, you know, which is what musicians do anyway.
Yeah.
I say steal in quotation marks, but that's what they're doing. It's like, ooh. And sometimes um, when I, when I'm playing or whatever, or somebody does something, a technique or whatever, said I'm stealing that. I let them know I'm stealing that. You know what I mean? Just out of fun. But yeah, sure.
Yeah. So let's see. Do we have anything else, Shell?
Nope, that would the other item was from T-Bone.
Oh yeah,
and
we already
the-
asked that. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Let's see. Is there anybody else out there that wants to throw a question toward Jimmy before we start getting into the final part here? Throw your questions in there. I don't know. I guess Jimmy, while people are thinking about a question to send our way, after all your research, do you believe that Hendrix was just ahead of his time, or was he seeing something most of us still just don't understand? Maybe some people understand if they're like a musician or an artist, but was he? I mean, you talked about his state of mind and stuff too. I'm wondering if he was just such a pioneer that it was, him digging in and just being so original at times, even though, he was influenced and stealing stuff and like that. But there was something about him, you know, and I'm just curious, was it something that most people just don't get or can't connect to?
I think it's all of the above
Yeah.
that you said. And there's two sides to that. There's a live Jimi Hendrix, where most of the time I saw him, uh, he was terrible, but it wasn't always his fault. You know, his sound was sabotaged lots, and like I said, he was always these pressures that was happening affected his way of playing as well. Like for instance, I was at 3 of the 4 shows of the Band of Gypsies concert, and it was horrible. The saving grace of that concert is the song Machine Gun, which every guitar player should just put on headphones and really hear. Maybe one or two, but otherwise, when you look at the album is heavily spliced together from different parts. That's how bad that they were. You know what I mean? So I mean, now Studio Hendrix, those first three albums, Are You Experience, Access Boulder's Love, and parts of Electric Ladyland, which was really some of the tracks are left over from when they recorded Access. Uh, those three albums come from the collaboration of Chas Chandler and Jimi Hendrix. It doesn't come from Jimi Hendrix. So a lot of people say, "Oh, Jimi Hendrix was a genius," and blah blah blah. It was Chas who was the genius, who was able to take Jimmy's ideas and put them into nice little 2-3 minute gems, uh, and make it work. And basically, the analogy I give to that collaboration is Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones. You know what I mean? Michael Jackson was great, but when he hooked up with Quincy Jones, it was all over. You know what I mean? Totally all over. So it's the same thing with Chas Chandler. Chas took him to England, and matter of fact, Purple Haze had something like 8 verses talking about Neptune and things like that. Chas said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa!" And anybody who's a musician knows the value of a good producer. You know what I mean? And Chaz was able to say, don't give him so much of the guitar solo there. Wait till, you know what I mean? Don't give him everything there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Little things like that. Hey, a little bit, you're singing too hard there. And also, there was a musician who was with Jimmy, Buddy Miles, black drummer, who did the band of Gypsies with him. A lot of people are not aware that Buddy Miles played drums for the first three albums, the demos for the first three albums. When an artist signs to a major label, you have to do demos first before you record the songs. You know what I mean? And then if they approve the demo, you go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, Buddy Miles is playing drums. I used to have a FM radio show for 12 years. And so, like I said, I interviewed just about everybody connected with Jimmy. I was able to, but on my show, I would play the actual demos to some of these songs that are very popular with Jimmy, and then I would make a medley of that going into the song from the album, so you can hear the difference, especially with the drumming of Buddy Miles and Mitch Mitchell. You can hear the big difference and how the song developed. So there were different parts of Hendrix that we have to keep in mind. His whole style of dress. Jimmy wasn't dressing like that when he was trying to struggle to come up in the village and he got discovered. But there was a black musician named Arthur Lee from Love who was dressing like that from the early 60s. Jimmy hung around him. Matter of fact, Jimmy produced the Love album, but they got to be friends. And Jimmy got a lot of his clothes, that whole clothes style of dressing from that. I mean, white musicians were dressing like Brian Jones, especially. Who was good friends with Jimmy, they were dressing like that once they got famous. But certainly when Jimmy was struggling in those clubs, trying to come up, trying to get discovered, he wasn't psychedelic dressing like this. Arthur Lee was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Arthur Lee died and went to his grave and said, "Jimmy stole my style of dressing." But
Yep.
yeah.
Well, Metalhead here in chat says Jimmy changed my whole trajectory when I saw him in '69 LA Forum.
Mhm.
Oh, you actually got to see him. That's cool.
Yeah.
Now, was Jimmy, if I remember right, something I saw on Jimmy probably last year or something, was he not in the army, or he was in the army, and I think he was actually in the division that I was in when I was in the army. I believe he was in the 101st Airborne out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Can you talk a little bit about and didn't he meet the drummer in the army? Weren't they together or start playing together?
Was it Army or Marines?
No, I'm pretty sure it was Army. Because
I
remember
sure
hearing.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just telling Michelle, I remember hearing the 101st Airborne and Jimi Hendrix, but he wasn't in very long. He like injured his ankle or something on like his 23rd parachuting jump or something like that. And he ended up with an honorable discharge, but he hated being in the army or something. That's what I remember about that. And I'm just curious what you know about that. Yeah, yes, T-Bone, airborne. That's right. Now it's called air assault. You know, you don't jump out of airplanes, you jump out of helicopters and rappel on ropes. We were called dopes on ropes, is what they call it. Yeah, but the Screaming Eagles, 101st, you know, now they're mobile infantry, air mobile. Yeah. So I'm just curious your background on how, you know, his army background and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was the I think you're right, the one of 101st. And often people come up to me throughout the years and, oh, Jimmy was a vet and blah, 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 blah. Because when I perform live and I do Star Spangled Banner, I have the vets stand up and, you know, honor them for their service of the country and things like that. But, and it's like, oh, Jimmy was a vet. And he wasn't, no. He was, the guy messed around a lot. All he wanted to do was play guitar. He made up the story about the whole ankle thingy. He basically was lackadaisical with his work. They wrote him up so many times that they said, "Get this guy there. He doesn't want to be a soldier," you know. And that he was lucky to get out honorably, but he did meet Billy Cox, the bass player, in the service, and Billy became friends. And they played, and then when Jimmy got out of the army and was struggling, he actually played with Billy's band, the Casuals, and there was another band Billy had started, and they were backing up all of these stars, all of these famous stars, Jackie Wilson, the Supremes, and you can go down the list. And so that's how that friendship started. I toured with Billy in 2016, and the stories that I heard, yikes. I mean, not in any books or whatever. I mean, yeah, some of the people I spoke to, they have stories of Jimmy just mind-boggling. And like I said, I was able, thank goodness I was able to put all this stuff together in a cohesive whole to be able to know where this guy was going. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we've been at it about an hour and 25 minutes already.
We got one more question, and it not meant to be an odd one, but our friend Shelly, she's just having a little bit of a premonition, but she wants to know, did Hendrix have like a obsession or a collection of guitar picks?
Guitar picks?
Yeah. For some reason, she's seeing guitar picks.
Something that I'm not aware of, but go with it.
Yeah,
it must mean something.
I would say, Shelly out there, you may know something that we don't know.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I remember when I was, you know, buying my very first guitar, and I was, you know, a little 14, 13-year-old kid, and my mom's with me at the store, and we bought my very first guitar. It was a piece of crap, but, you know, everybody's first guitar is a piece of crap. But I remember them just taking like 2 handfuls of guitar picks and throwing them in a bag and going, "Here you go." So, you know, even to this day, I mean, I still got like,
oh wow,
picks galore and guitar picks and stuff from bands that we played with way back in the day, like Infectious Grooves and, you know, all those heavier bands and stuff back in the day. And everybody wants a pick, Pantera and all this stuff. So, you know, that's funny though. If he had an obsession with guitar picks,
yeah, you never know. Something
he probably had an obsession with something, but not guitar picks.
Yeah. As did a lot of people back then, and that was the era, you know. So
yeah. All right. Well, like I was starting to say, now we've been at this about an hour and a half. Anything you want to leave us with or talk about before we head on out?
Basically, just let me leave my websites.
Yep. I've been putting it in chat, and just for everybody who's going to listen in the future on the audio podcast.
Mark has said that you guys put on a great show.
Oh yeah, I've seen some videos of the shows, but it's www.kisstheskytribute.com. Is that the right one? Okay,
that's one of them. My other website is www.newdivinitys UFC.com.
Okay.
And that's my
Right.
personal website.
Okay, I'll make sure I put all that stuff when we're done here into the show description so people can just go in there and click on it and go ahead and check that out. Any
got any-
performances or anything?
Yeah, I
coming
was
up?
going to say, you got anything coming up in Michigan?
Yeah.
Oh man, but I played Lexington, Michigan, the Westland at the Token,
Really?
Detroit Diesel,
Oh, hey, that's where our
Harpo's.
well, I can't say that.
Yeah, there's been a
Can't say
few
where.
spots. Matter of fact, I also do an Al Green show, so I just came back from the Annex in Detroit,
Oh
uh,
wow.
doing the Al Green show. The thing is, yeah, I have the performances, and when you go to those websites, you can go to the tour page, and you'll be able to
Well,
get an
okay.
idea of what's going on with that.
yeah, let me
Well, good. We look forward to meeting you at one of them.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
look
Come out
forward
and
to
see
meeting
you.
you guys for sure. Wow, I feel like I met some friends here.
Absolutely. Here, let's show this to everybody real quick.
As soon as you said the Token and
Yeah.
Diesel, it was like, wow.
That's where my drummer runs
Yeah.
a booking agency, and he books for the Token and the Diesel and all kinds of places now in Indiana and stuff like that. So he does a lot of booking. But yeah, this is the website, everybody, and definitely go check this out. There's videos. Here's your list of upcoming shows. It looks like, yep, February 27th. You're going to be in New Jersey. It looks like Vineland, the Landis Theater.
Yeah.
Vineland, yeah.
Yep. And then March 1st, you're in Huntington, Kentucky, the
No,
Paramount.
Huntington,
No, that's
New
New
York.
York.
Long
Oh,
Island.
New York.
Yeah.
Oh, why did I see that as a K? That's weird. Anyways, April 11th, you're going to be all the way in Gainesville, Georgia at the hall in Gainesville. Man, it must be surreal to sit there and play Jimi Hendrix music up there on stage and just feel that energy, man. I couldn't imagine what that would be like to fill those shoes too. I mean, personally, you got to go through I would think you would go through a lot to get yourself ready for that.
Well, what makes this show different from any other tribute is, first of all, any other tribute other than Hendrix is different because this is my 58th year. I don't think there's a tribute that's been that long, even an Elvis tribute that's been that long. And what makes this particular Kiss the Sky different is like it's a Broadway play, meaning we recreate the Jimmy's iconic concerts in full era equipment, era costumes, and everything, and it's all in one show with video interludes in between. So we have different sidemen for let's say Woodstock, the 6-piece band. Band of Gypsies, he had 2 black musicians. We have different sidemen. Experience, he had 2 white musicians. So you see what I'm saying? It's,
Yeah.
so we do all of that like a Broadway play, and you can imagine the flack we're getting from you know who because we do this. So that's why this show is very important. My producer, Mike Gotch, is responsible for more than half of putting this whole thing together and making it work. And we're like a marriage.
Yeah.
If you met 2 guys, not sexually, but I want to make that clear. You know what I mean? But yeah, so that's what makes it work.
Your brother's from another mother. I mean, there you go. Yeah. Well, you know what, Jimmy, this has been awesome tonight. It was great to finally get you on the show and meet you in person. Well, not in person, but virtually
yet.
in person. Not yet.
Yeah. Well,
we'll be
close.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we really appreciate the time you shared with us tonight. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Wayne. And it's been a blast, man. I hope to meet you guys in person very soon.
We're gonna keep an eye out for you coming up here toward Michigan and Detroit, and right around the corner. So
thank you. And Wayne, I'll be in touch with you by email by tomorrow. I got something to go over with you.
Okay, sounds good. All right, take care. Oops.
Start reconfiguring the system.
Yeah, I know.
So I've already said that I'm going to be locking in. I'll keep an eye on the web page.
Yeah.
So, because we always like to go watch music play.
Absolutely. Well, so Michelle, conversations like this remind us that the line between art and consciousness and the unknown may be far thinner than we think. So history often resembles or remembers the music, but sometimes it forgets the mystery surrounding the people who created it.
Well, and we know with great works comes, you know, in creativity, there has to be those influences.
Yeah.
And it's not just the influences of previous musicians.
Yep. Yep. And so before we say goodnight to everybody, just want to give a quick shout out to, first of all, everybody in chat and T-Bone for gifting another 5 uh, memberships to
And
people.
thank you, Mark, for lining us up with a wonderful guest
Yes.
tonight.
Yep. And yep. Mark Eddy for being an awesome booking agent, since Michelle and I are so busy dealing with schoolwork and now band stuff.
And investigative work.
Investigative work. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, do you want to, before we break, do you want to give like any kind of an update for your
I
nephew?
would. Today is day 25. For those who are in the Redford area and surrounding cities, we are still looking for Timothy William Tackett, soon to be age 51. If you are on my Facebook or on Missing in Michigan, there are flyers that are posted. We still have absolutely no idea where he is. There have been no sightings and no communication.
Yep. So the search is ongoing, and
It's
yeah.
extremely stressful, especially for his father,
Yep.
for myself, for his daughter,
Yeah.
for his brother, friends. So,
Yep. So with that being said, a huge thank you to Jimy Bleu for joining us tonight and helping us explore that deeper layer to Jimi Hendrix. And a thank you to all of you for being here with us, asking questions and keeping an open mind. And have a great night, everyone.
have a great night.
Have a great week. And as always, you guys know what to do. Keep your eyes to that.
Oh, definitely the sky.
The sky.
We know the sky.
The sky. Absolutely. Now,
Good night, everyone.
good night. Thanks.